Hey guys, this is Ryan. Welcome to Armor of God Ministries. Have you ever met those people that just whine and complain all the time? You could give them a briefcase of $1 million in it and they would gripe because it was in $20 bills. Well, I'm here to tell you that I am sick and tired of hearing the whining and the complaining of the generations before us. They absolutely will totally freak out if their phone is missing. If their phone is not in their hand at all times, they don't know what to do with themselves. I'm walking into restaurants to eat with my wife, and you walk in and you don't see people talking anymore. You don't see people laughing and joking and having a good time around the table. Their face is in their phone. I went to a funeral the other day. A funeral. And these kids are sitting there with their phones in their face. Driving down the highway. I have to take the highway every day. I take the highway every day to work. It's about a 20-minute commute to the west side of Tulsa. And I'm telling you, 80% of the people I pass have their phone in their face. And that's a $500 fine by the police when they see that. Where are the cops? Why aren't they pulling people over for this? That is dangerous. That's not like sitting at a restaurant or something like that. That's just plain old dangerous. Plain old dangerous. I have family members that can't put their phone down. So I'm not just griping at you guys for doing it. My own family does it. I have to have my phone to fall asleep at night because I listen to videos on YouTube while I fall asleep. So I'm guilty of it too. Cell phones have completely taken over our lives. You order food on your cell phones. You order your groceries on your cell phone. You order your clothes, your books. You watch your movies. You watch videos. You listen to audiobooks, all from your cell phone. Everything. You pay for stuff if you happen to leave your home and go out to an actual business. You can pay for your groceries or whatever with your cell phone. You can pre-check out what you're pulling off the shelf by scanning the barcode in that company's app, and when you walk through the little metal airport thing look like it rings it up automatically right off your phone. We are so technology dependent. Absolutely so technology dependent. And the main culprit is cell phones. Most of us use our laptops and stuff just for business now. Our cell phone does everything else we want it to do. So it just blows my mind. So I'm going to take a personal challenge that unless I get a phone call or a message that I need to respond to, I am absolutely going to not have my cell phone in front of my face, except for when I'm recording these videos. And then I'll do it. So I'm not going to be watching videos. I'm not going to be ordering nothing. If I need something, I'm going to get in my car and go get it. So I know it's super convenient, guys, but I think honestly it's taking away from the human to human element. Let me explain it like this. Back when I was a kid, we used to know who our neighbors were. And we used to conversate with our neighbors. And we used to have conversations with our neighbors. And you could see your neighbor from across the street because we had one very important thing on a house that doesn't have it on it today, which is a front porch. Houses today do not have front porches. They have roll-up garage doors. So half of your house facing the neighbor is a garage door. It's not a porch anymore. Garages used to be on the side of the house, and there used to be a wraparound porch from one point of the house in the front all the way around to the other end of the house. And you could sit literally on your porch, see your neighbors across the street sitting on their porch, and then you could go and you could conversate and you could talk and you could have a good time. It's over. And it's because of garage doors. I know that sounds crazy, but it's true. When they started putting garage doors on the front of houses, then people quit really communicating within the neighborhood. I don't see kids playing in front yards anymore. I see people walking their dogs, but guess what? Their cell phones in front of their face. So the neighborhoods have totally changed. I say that to say this. That's kind of like the cell phone of today. The cell phone is like our garage door. We no longer want to communicate with humans. God forbid, instead of texting somebody, you pick up the phone and want to have a conversation. They go into full anaphylactic shock when they see somebody's actually calling them instead of texting them. It's not good, guys. That is absolutely not good. I remember, I'm old enough to remember the days when there were no cell phones. Cell phones did not exist. You had a phone hooked to a wall with a cord on it. And then they went to cordless phones, which means you could kind of walk around your house and talk on the phone. And then came cell phones, which actually had a cord on them because they were in a car. You picked it up and got your dose of radiation for the day and then hung up the phone. So, anyway, I'm not griping. I'm just saying sometimes it's okay to put your cell phone away. It's okay to turn the TV off. It's okay to take your dog out for a walk and leave your cell phone at the house. You're not going to miss anything. If something major happens, you'll know as soon as you get back. So my challenge to you is this. 15 minutes a day. That's all I'm challenging you on. Just 15 minutes a day. Put your cell phone away. Not while you're at work. When you're at home. When you get home and sit down on the couch and turn on the boob tube TV and you want to pull your cell phone out and play on your cell phone while you're watching TV, I'm just asking for 15 minutes. You put the cell phone down. Put your cell phone on a timer. It's got a timer on it. Put your cell phone down for 15 minutes. Don't touch it. Don't look at it. Don't think about it. And don't acknowledge it. So that's my challenge to you. I bring that up to bring this up. Noah, back in the day, he had a direct conversation with God. God didn't text Noah and say, hey, by the way, there's a flood coming. You need to do this. Here's the schematics on an Adobe PDF. I sent it to your phone. Make sure you pull that down and look at it. Didn't happen like that. So we're going to go over Genesis chapter 7 today. And we're going to go into exactly what happened during that time. Genesis chapter 7 is not as controversial as Genesis chapter 6, but there's still some things in there that people do not agree on whatsoever. But we're going to go through it. We're going to touch base on it, and I want you to kind of get the core message here, and I'll let you know what that is at the end. So it says, Then the Lord said to Noah, Come into the ark, you and all your household, because I have seen that you are righteous before me and in this generation. Okay, so what that means is before Noah was the really only righteous person that God could find on earth, and his family that he wanted to save. Everybody else's hearts were full of evil all the time. Their thoughts, their actions, their deeds, everything they did full of evil. Everybody on the planet was totally consumed. And you can go back to chapter 6 to research that. But Noah was the only one that was seen righteous in the eyes of God on the earth at that time. And it says, You shall take with you 7 each of every clean animal, a male and his female, 2 each of animals that are unclean, a male and his female. Also 7 each of birds of the air, male and female, to keep the species alive on the face of the earth. So a lot of people say, well, the animals went in 2 by 2. No, well, they did, male and female, but it wasn't 2 of each kind of animal. In some cases, it was 7 of each kind of animal. And it's going to get a little bit more into that here in a second. But, they had to eat as well during this time, and God knew that. So they not only had animals to repopulate the earth, but they had animals for milk while they were on the earth. or I'm sorry, on the ark. They had animals to eat while they were on the ark. So that's why God said, take 7 of each animal. And he said, for after 7 more days I will cause it to rain on the earth 40 days and 40 nights, and I will destroy from the face of the earth all living things that I have made. So a couple of things there. Number one, it had not rained up until the flood. It had never rained on the planet. And the reason why is because the firmament in the sky was solid rain or ice. Depends on who you talk to. But there was a deep core of moisture that surrounded the earth. And a lot of scholars believe that that's how people lived so long back then, is because the sun's rays, even though they could come through, the moisture within the atmosphere would negate a lot of the radiation that was coming through with that. So we're not going to get too deep into that, but that's the philosophy that I believe. I think that's why people live so long, is because they weren't subject to the radiation that we're subject to today. And it said, I will destroy from the face of the earth all living things that I have made. So he tells you right there that he's made all living things. So it's a creation type statement from God. I created them. I'm going to destroy them. This includes the humans. This includes the animals that were left behind. You did not want to be, I'm sure those animals were rushing to get on the ark. And by the way, Noah didn't go out and find them. God brought them there. So, but I'm sure that maybe there was some competition. In other words, you didn't want to be the third monkey fighting to get on the ark. So, and Noah did according to all that the Lord commanded him. Noah was 600 years old when the flood waters were on the earth. And we just talked about the age and how that was affected. It says, so Noah with his sons, his wife, and his sons' wives went into the ark because of the waters of the flood. Of each animals, of animals that are unclean, of birds, and of everything that creeps on the earth, 2 by 2, they went into the ark of Noah, male and female, as God had commanded Noah. So that's where you get the 2 by 2. That's where people sometimes get mixed up, and they think, oh, it was just 2 of each kind of animal. It wasn't just 2 of each kind of animal. They went in 2 by 2, but it wasn't just, they went in male and female, 2 by 2. So let's say you had 7 different types of wolves or dog. So you would have each type of dog. Or maybe you would have 2 types of dogs or 3 types of dogs, but you would have 7 sets coming in to Noah's Ark of those animals. So it said, and a lot of people say, well, that's impossible. There's no way you could get every kind of animal, species, snake, insect, bird, blah, 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 onto the ark. I'm here to tell you, you can. It's mathematically possible. And everything can come down to math. You can break everything down to math. You can break the weight of that ship with everybody on it down. You can break the space down because God gave the actual dimensions of exactly the size of the ark and how large he wanted it to be, 3 stories tall. So you can break all that down. And then, to put a cherry on top, I went to Kentucky and I saw the exact replica of Noah's Ark to the dimensions, exact dimensions mentioned in the Bible. When you get on that ark in Kentucky, if you haven't gone, you need to go. If you have not got on that ark and looked for yourself, you have no idea the size and scope of what God asked Noah to build. It was huge, absolutely huge. So anyway, the math computes. You can do it. And also what you got to remember is there wasn't the number of species on the earth then that there are today. So cut that down by about 75%, and then you're probably somewhere in the ballpark, maybe less than that of what there is today. So, and it came to pass after 7 days that the waters of the flood were on the earth. In the 600th year of Noah's life, in the 2nd month, the 7th day of the month, On that day, all the fountains of the great deep were broken up, and the windows of heaven were opened, and the rain was on the earth 40 days and 40 nights. Okay, so it says that the fountains of the great deep. So that means all the water in the ground. All the water in the ground, like Old Faithful at Yellowstone. The fountain that shoots up every like 15 minutes or whatever, hour, or whatever, however much time it takes. All the waters, the underground water broke up and came to the surface of the earth. That is millions and millions and millions of tons of water out of the earth. So now all those caverns are empty of water. Totally emptied out, which would have caused, not only would it cause a flood, but tremendous earthquakes. Volcanoes would have been going off. I'm telling you, it would have been a bad day for the people outside of Noah's Ark. And it says the windows of heaven were opened. Okay, so think about that for a second. So God in Genesis chapter 1 said he would create the firmaments in the heavens. And it says the heavens, or the windows of the heavens were opened. So it means that the firmaments were released. All of that moisture in the atmosphere that surrounded the entire earth, it had never rained to this day, came down. He brought the firmament down to earth. In other words, he released the water. That's it. The firmament, the barrier between us and the sun's rays, gone. That day, gone. Absolutely. I can't even imagine the torrential rain that was coming down at that time. So if you can imagine probably, 1,000 feet of nothing but water all the way around the planet starting to dump on top of you all at one time. And all of the water under the earth coming up all at the same time. Continents would have split, volcanoes going on, major earthquakes. It would have caused absolutely tremendous damage. And it says, on the very same day, Noah and Noah's sons, Shem, Ham, and Japheth, and Noah's wife, and the 3 wives of his sons with them entered the ark. They and every beast after its kind, all cattle after their kind, every creeping thing that creeps on the earth after its kind, and every bird after its kind, every bird of every sort. And they went into the ark, and they went into the ark to Noah, 2 by 2, of all flesh in which is the breath of life. So basically, anything that had God's breath. So if you remember when Adam was created, God breathed the breath of life into him. He did the same thing with the creatures he made. So any creature that had God's breath of life in it, or God's spirit, was, that's what that means. So any creature that's breathing God's breath of life, is coming onto the ark. So those that entered, male and female of all flesh, went in as God had commanded him, and the Lord shut him in. So God came down, everybody got in, Noah, his family, the animals, and God came down and shut them in. So wherever the door was, or however they did this, God closed it and sealed it. So it says, now the flood was on the earth 40 days, the waters increased and lifted up the ark, and it rose high above the earth. The waters prevailed and greatly increased on the earth, and the ark moved about on the surface of the waters. And the waters prevailed exceedingly on the earth, and all the hills under the whole heavens were covered. The waters prevailed 15 cubits upward, and the mountains were covered. So that doesn't compute. That does not compute mathematically. 15 cubits is really not that high. So either the hills were much smaller, the mountains were much smaller, what they were calling mountains, or the mountains were created during the flood when the springs came up. So, in other words, Noah rose above the waters, and as the waters were coming up out of the earth, it was pushing the ground level higher, which makes sense. But I don't know for sure, guys. I'm gonna have to tell you on that one. I don't know. I researched, and 15 cubits is not high enough. However, a lot of people also say, well, if Noah was higher than Mount St. Helen, than Mount Everest, they couldn't breathe. That part does compute, because the oxygen level at that time was so much higher than it is now on the planet that, yeah, they probably could breathe without any problem. So keep that in mind. But as far as the 15 cubits and covering all the mountains, I don't know. God said it happened, so it happened. How it happened, I'm not 100% sure. So it says, all in whose nostrils was the breath of the Spirit of life, all that was on the dry land died. So he destroyed all living things which were on the face of the ground, both man and cattle, creeping thing and bird of the air. They were destroyed from the earth. Only Noah and those who were with him in the ark remained alive. And the waters prevailed on the earth 150 days. So the earth was flooded. The earth was flooded for 150 days. So that's a pretty long time, and to be on the ark. So they would have had to have, of course, food, fresh water, milk, things of that nature to survive. So some of the animals probably got eaten on the ark. So let's get to some conclusions here now. One, is it possible? Yes. What was described in the Bible is mathematically impossible, and the only issue that I couldn't really hammer down was the 15 cubits high, because that's actually not that high. So I don't understand that one. But bottom line is that it did happen. They did bring the animals on the ark. Is it possible to fit that many animals and creatures and humans on the ark? Absolutely. And I absolutely advise that you go see the ark in Kentucky and check it out for yourself and make your own decision. But I guarantee you, once you see that, not only would they have been able to get all the animals on, there would have been plenty of room left over. Not even kidding. So you need to go check that out. It's pretty amazing. So final point is this: what is the capstone? What is the meaning of this chapter? The meaning of this chapter is a couple of things. One, God is always going to take care of the righteous. God is always going to take care of his children. If you are a child of God, if you've accepted Christ as your Lord and Savior, if you said, Lord, I accept you as my Lord and Savior, I believe you died on the cross, I believe you're the Son of God, were resurrected back to life, forgive me of my sins, I repent and accept you as my Lord and Savior. If you've done that, you're one of the righteous. You're covered in grace. How can you say that? Or you're covered in grace. You are a star on the earth to God. What that means is like when we're standing out at night and we look up into the black sky and we see the stars, that's the way God sees us on earth. When he looks down, he can see every single one of us, and we are the righteous. So God will always take care of his children. And I know a lot of people go through stuff. And I get that. And that's just the way, some people longer than others. Some people go through stuff for 2 or 3 years. Some people go through stuff, almost it's there and it's over, a month, So they have financial problems, they have kids that may be addicted to drugs and they're fighting that. But God never leaves you. God never leaves you if you're one of his children, and he will work through people on this planet to help you in your situation. You just got to reach out and ask for it. So anyway, I hope you all liked the video. If you did, please like and share. Just hit the like button. That's all you got to do. Just hit the like button. I really would appreciate it. I love you guys, and we'll catch you on the next video. See you later.